Hey everybody, this is Steve Winward, and in this video I want to show you how you can optimize your Power BI desktop experience if you're running in one of our sovereign clouds. So we have one version of the Power BI desktop tool that ships regardless of whether you're running in commercial Office 365 or if you're running in one of our sovereign clouds of Office 365. And what I want to show you is that you can actually configure Power BI desktop with a registry key setting to bypass what we call a global discovery endpoint. This endpoint really, its job is to say it takes an email address and then it routes the Power BI desktop client to the correct sovereign cloud. But if you want to, you can actually bypass this and just go straight to the sovereign cloud that your account is configured for. Without doing this, most customers will be fine. However, for customers that have very specific firewall policies and very specific allow list of IP ranges and URLs, they probably want to set this up so that their users can actually log in by default with the Power BI desktop experience. So let's go ahead and switch over to my laptop and I'll show you what this looks like without the registry key setting, and then also show you what it looks like with the registry key setting applied. So here's the setup. I'm on a machine. I'm going to be signing in with a user in our GCC High environment for Office 365, which is one of our US sovereign government clouds for US government customers. So I've got Power BI desktop. I just installed that. There's only one version of Power BI desktop, by the way. We don't have different versions of Power BI desktop for users in sovereign clouds. So I'm going to sign in with my Office 365 account that's in GCC High. I've also got Fiddler installed on this machine as well. And we're going to trace the traffic to see what happens by default out of the box with Power BI desktop. So I'm back in Power BI desktop. We're going to go to sign in here. And now while that's signing in, we're going to now look at Fiddler. And if we see here, we can actually see that there's a request that was just made to api.powerbi.com. That's a commercial global discovery endpoint. And the only piece of information that's sent is actually the email that I just used to sign in with. And what's going to happen is that the result of this is going to tell the Power BI desktop client which actual cloud does this user belong to. From there, then the Power BI desktop will be redirected to the actual Azure for Government GCC High login endpoint for the test GCC High account that I have. Okay, so now I'm getting prompted for password. We also get a prompt here that says feature requires a restart. So because I'm signing in with a GCC High account, it does need to restart the Power BI desktop so that in the future it knows to go to the right environment by default. So we'll say okay to that. Now let's go back to Fiddler. And so what we'll see here is, once again, there was the call to api.powerbi.com. And then you can actually see there's another request that goes to login.microsoftonline.us, which is the Azure for Government instance of Azure Active Directory. So this is just showing that the api.powerbi.com global discovery endpoint does work correctly. It does redirect to the right logon. But the question here is, how can you bypass that global discovery endpoint of api.powerbi.com if, for example, you have a firewall policy that's restricting that you have to go to just select endpoints? So let me show you how that works. So what we're looking at here is, this is my GitHub post that I put together documenting the registry settings that you can apply whether you're in GCC, GCC High, or DOD for your Power BI desktop for your organization. So I'm documenting what the actual registry settings are, and then for each environment, I'm also giving you a sample registry file that you can apply to your environment. So this account that I'm testing with is in GCC High. So let's go ahead and take a look at the sample file here. I'm going to open this up in the raw version. I'm going to right click this and say save as. We're going to save this to my desktop, and we'll choose all files, and we're going to save this as a .reg file. We'll say save. All right, so we're going to now open this file to install the registry setting on this machine. So we'll double click the file. Go ahead and say yes. We'll say okay. And now, just to double check that this actually did get installed, let's go ahead and look at this in the registry editor. So we'll go open regedit. So it's going to be under local machine, software, Microsoft, and then it's going to be under Microsoft Power BI. Now, one thing just to kind of keep in mind here is that by default, there will be a Microsoft Power BI desktop folder in the registry settings. You don't want to put the discovery URL there. If you did this manually, you want to make sure that you actually, if it's not already there, create a folder for just Microsoft Power BI. And then what you want to do is you actually want to create the setting for this Power BI discover URL. In this case, I'm pointing now to the GCC High environment. Okay, so that's applied. Let's now go back and run Power BI desktop and see what this looks like with Fiddler running to make sure that this doesn't go to the commercial discovery endpoint anymore. So I'll launch Power BI. I'm also going to launch Fiddler, and we'll trace the network calls to see the difference here. Okay, so back in Power BI Desktop, let's go ahead and sign in. And notice this first call now is going to api.hi.powerbi.gov.us. So we're bypassing that commercial global discovery endpoint, going specific to the GCC High discovery endpoint now. So now I'm signing in with my account. Once again, we still get that prompt, that feature requires a restart, but we look here, we are now signed in. If we were to open this back up and then we were to sign in again, because we had the registry setting applied, we would now know that we would go to the GCC High specific discovery endpoint, not the commercial endpoint. I hope you found this video helpful if you're running Power BI in one of our sovereign clouds. If you have any comments about this or questions, please feel free to put them in the comments below. Or if you have ideas of topics you would like to see in the future, please also put those in the comments below too. Until next time, thank you for watching this video.